I think you rule out Real Madrid at your peril. I think we saw that last season that it's a remarkable team, and they've just when they another team like Liverpool when they enter the Champions League, it's just their playground, isn't it?
What's up, gente? Welcome back to Stand Sports Champions League draw, and I'm joined again by David Whitworth, now a regular on this channel. And we had to get, his first thought on what's happened in the European competitions. Of course, Champions League, Europa League, Spanish teams involved. Unfortunately, in the Champions League, just one, but what a team! Real Madrid, the team that could always win it. So, if you're gonna have one horse in the race, it better be the best one. And that's what we do here in Spain. And the Europa League, we have a lot of horses, so hopefully one of them crosses the finish line. Let's get right into it with the Champions League. Real Madrid against Liverpool. What a tie we're treated to. Again, the rematch of the Champions League final last year. Very different, I think, game because, obviously all games that we talk about here, it's the caveat, it's going to be in February. There's a lot of months until then. There's a World Cup. A lot of things can change. And the winter transfer market, which I do think a lot of European clubs will be very active, to be honest, because this year it will prove to be even more tiresome on players, and a lot of big teams will need more spare parts, I think, in the transfer window. So, that picture might change a little bit, but just on first thoughts, how do you feel about Liverpool? Obviously, they've been struggling in the Premier League, but we all know with teams like the Merseyside Reds, they are a different beast in European competitions, and they just always show up, and it doesn't really matter, the form that they're on. But yeah, how do you feel about this brilliant tie that we're going to be treated in February?
Absolutely, it is a brilliant tie. It's a typical heavyweight contest between, obviously, a repeat of the final between Liverpool and Real Madrid in Paris back in the summer. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamic of this one. Liverpool, as you rightly say, they've been very much up and down, a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team. When they are good, they are very good, but when they are bad, they are awful. So it depends on what version we're going to be seeing. Last time out, beating Tottenham 2-1, a very, very good win. Signs that that was the Liverpool of old, well, say old over the last couple of seasons, but you just never know which team you're going to get. They've been more consistent in the Champions League. They've put in a good performance overall, beaten in the end by a Napoli team that I think is surprising everybody. They've been a very, very astute team in the Champions League and showing in Serie A as well, top of the league. But with Liverpool, you never know exactly what you're going to get with them. They've got obviously quality line through the squad, but it's interesting with Liverpool that they go through these phases where you think you can trust them, and then suddenly they're a shadow of the former team, and they just look short of any kind of energy, and it's very strange to see considering the last 2-3 seasons they've been so much high pressing, rock and roll football that Jurgen Klopp's known for. It's curious that his teams with Mainz and Dortmund and Liverpool, his seventh seasons have always been a catastrophe. At Mainz, they were relegated. At Dortmund, they were nearly relegated. And now at Liverpool, in his seventh season, they're having a bad season. So it's interesting that there seems to be a malaise, and I think that it comes down to there's so much energy with the teams that they're constantly pressing the opposition and playing such high ferocity of play that is catching up with them. I think it's simply catching up with them. And I think that certainly the midfield is certainly an important part of that formation, that I think that it needs a change in midfield, because you've got the likes of Milner, Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, of wonderful players, but it just the legs are going with them, and they need fresh parts, as you said, in terms of general with the transfer
Yeah, they
window
have us
coming up.
really strengthened in the midfield. I think you mentioned Thiago was the last signing,
Yeah.
and that was back in 2018, 2019
Yes.
season. So
Yeah.
when you're at the top level, you need to refresh your squad basically every
Totally.
year, as City have shown in the Premier League. And I also think that has to do with it. Chasing City every year, getting to 90 plus points, 100 points even, and not winning the league. It must do something to you psychologically, where you can't get up for it again at the same level. And yeah, that coupled with, as you said, the 7th-year syndrome, it's been what's kind of been haunting Liverpool. What about Real Madrid? On top of La Liga, at the moment. They still have to play Real Sociedad, Rayo Vallecano tonight. So, that may change, but, they've been kind of not really impressive this season, but just picking up the points, winning the big games, Clásico, the Madrid derby, winning their group in the Champions League comfortably. And in this case, it hasn't really helped them because they're getting a heavyweight in the round of 16. But yeah, what are their chances? Can they go the way this season again? Last season it was kind of symbolic, the performance of Benzema. This year hasn't been involved as much, but then we have seen a growth of kind of the supporting cast. The Rodrigos, Valverde's had an amazing season. Can they fancy their chances again this season to go all the way?
I think you rule out Real Madrid at your peril. I think we saw that last season that it's a remarkable team, and they've just another team like Liverpool when they enter the Champions League, it's just their playground, isn't it? It's just their scope to just shine, and history defends that you can't rule them out at all. When you think that you have to really like kill them off, or properly kill them off, because they've shown that they can come back from incredibly challenging moments. I think that Real Madrid are solid, not spectacular, but they get the job done. And they are a well-oiled team that have been well marshaled for years now. And certainly with Carlo Ancelotti, they have the perfect manager. And unlike Liverpool, they have got a very young but mature and already ready to go midfield. And it shows because they've got a lot of energy in that area of the field. And even without Benzema, obviously crucial a player he is, they still know how to get the job done, and that's the sign of a champion team. And it's a shame that for them that they've done everything right, and then they get Liverpool in this round. But you have to go through the best teams to get to the final. Obviously, you want a kinder route. Obviously, everyone's looking for that, but at some point, you have to hit a big team, and you have to show that why you are that team. Absolutely, Real Madrid can go on and lift the cup. You'd be crazy not to think that. I think that City will be stronger for the experiences they've had, and certainly Bayern as well. We'll talk about those in due course. But certainly for Real Madrid's perspective, absolutely, they're always going to be one of the favourites, and certainly with the team that they have, and if they get Benzema fit and firing again, yeah, you can't rule them out. They're certainly one of the favorites to win once again.
Yeah, I guess one of the positives from them finishing first is that they are going to have the second leg at the Bernabeu, which I don't know if it helps you as much now with the removal of the away goal rule, but it's always for Real Madrid as well. It's symbolic to have that second leg at the Bernabeu with the atmosphere, with everything on the line. So I'm sure they will fancy their chances. You mentioned Bayern Munich as well. The other highlight of the draw, PSG against Bayern Munich, two of the heavyweights of European football, two of the favorites to go to the final this season. It's going to be amazing, seeing obviously kind of a reinvigorated front three of Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe that really have hit form in the Champions League this season against the Bayern Munich that, a lot of people were saying, they're not really looking themselves, they're not gelling, and now look at the table in both Europe and Germany, and they're top in those groups. So, with Bayern, I don't think there's any crisis going on. We're seeing Mane that's kind of slotted in as well. I'm also kind of was really impressed by Leroy Sané's start of the season. I think also another guy with a point to prove ahead of the World Cup. What do you expect of this tie?
I think for me, this is the tie of the round. I think this is the most juiciest of them all. We've seen a Liverpool and Real Madrid, but a Paris Bayern match. This is a mouth-watering opposition. I mean, you got two teams that are looking to win the competition. Obviously, Bayern have more experience. Paris are desperate to win the Champions League for the cherry on the cake, let's say, for Paris and the project that they've been starting for around a decade now. Paris have improved a lot since last season. They've gone through a new ethos with the new manager, and I think they're actually playing as a team now, finally. So this is going to be interesting. I think I like the new signings they made at Carlos Soler. and Fabian, especially obviously ex of Betis. I think he deserves a move to a big club, and now he's well, with respect to Napoli, I think a club that can be challenging for a Champions League outright. And I think there's a good balance between the side now. Obviously, they've got a lot of big name players, and it's interesting to see the dynamic is always between Neymar, Mbappe, Messi, but they seem to be on the whole working well together. And I think they'll put up a good challenge against Bayern. I think that Bayern have stepped up as well. You mentioned Mane. I think he slotted in perfectly to Robert Lewandowski's shoes. He's had a tremendous start. I think that maybe Liverpool fans are noticing the difference without him now because Mane was such an important cog for that Liverpool team that he let Mo Salah shine even more and took a lot of the burden of the goals away. And I think you're seeing that with Liverpool that they're missing Mane. But obviously, what Liverpool's loss is in Bayern's gain, and they're certainly gaining with him. This is going to be a very close game. This could all go all the way to penalties. This is a very, I think Bayern are favourites. Certainly, they'll have the second game at home, which again is a factor, like you mentioned with Real Madrid. I think that Bayern will just about get through, but it could go all the way to penalties. I think that it'll be closer than maybe than what people think this game.
Absolutely. I think it was very impressive as well, Bayern winning all their games in the group, in a group of death, with Inter,
Yes.
with Barça. Not just, a lot of teams won their first 3-4 games, then you could see genuinely they let their foot off the gas, drew a game, lost a game, in the case of Real Madrid. But with Bayern, they just went out and beat everyone, made a statement. So, yeah, certainly the best out of the round, apart from Real Madrid. The rest of the draw, RB Leipzig against City. City always seems to get a good draw, even though obviously Leipzig are no mugs. Club Brugge against Benfica, Frankfurt against Napoli, Borussia Dortmund against Chelsea, Inter against Porto, and AC Milan against Spurs. Any kind of matchup that stands out to you?
I mean, obviously, with the English ties, I'm always curious to see how they're going to do AC Milan and Tottenham. That's a very, very difficult one to call as well. Milan have been doing well in the league, obviously getting through to this stage of the Champions League role. Giroud's been in fine form in Serie A. Obviously, we'll know Tottenham very, very well. Tottenham, again, similar to Liverpool, been a bit up and down. So you never know exactly what you're going to get with them. But certainly they've got a manager that knows Serie A like the back of his hand in Antonio Conte. I think that, again, this could be a very, very close game. I give it just to Tottenham, just because I think that with the second game at home, I think there'll be a factor for that. And I think the Conte factor is crucial as well. His knowledge of the AC Milan team will be the difference between the two teams. But that'll be a very interesting game. Another one is Dortmund-Chelsea. Dortmund have been playing very well in the Bundesliga this season. The form of Jude Bellingham has been outstanding. It's going to be interesting to see where he's going to go next season. I firmly believe that he'll be elsewhere come the summer. So the bidding war is already going to be going on for him. And I think they've got a good settled team. They've done well to adapt to life without Haaland. Chelsea have been on the slide a little bit recently. I'm not quite sure what we're going to expect with them in Europe. I think they're a bit more cagey. Certainly, they showed that against Arsenal with a win for the Gunners, a deserving win as well. So I give this to Dortmund. I think that Dortmund will get through to this game. I think that their Champions League experience and I think the form of Bellingham will prevail in this one. I think obviously Chelsea will be the favourites, but I see the surprise here with Dortmund getting through.
Absolutely. I think Napoli as well, getting a favorable draw against Eintracht Frankfurt. Obviously, they're the Europa League winners, but there has been a bit of a downfall, I think, this season in their form. And they're not the same team. They've lost some players, and Napoli possibly playing the most attractive team in Europe at the moment. If they keep the same form going, you should expect to see them in the quarterfinals. Also, watch out for the Portuguese teams because, they've done a lot of damage in Europe, finished top their groups as well, Benfica and Porto.
Indeed.
So, Club Brugge, another team that did really well and shouldn't be underestimated. But yeah, certainly that Inter Porto will be very evenly matched, more so than I think what you expect when you just see the club badges. Let's go quickly to the Europa League. I think we got 10 minutes on this Zoom call, so we're gonna make it quick. Obviously, the main highlight for us as Spanish football lovers is Barça getting Manchester United, possibly the biggest coconut, as they say in Spain, basically the toughest draw in this stage. Obviously, it's a Man United that also has their kind of growing pains this season under Eric Ten Hag. But to be fair to them, apart from that hiccup against Real Sociedad at Old Trafford, they've been pretty good and pretty impressive in the Europa League. And then Barca, we know about their worries, and their problems at the moment. It seems like it's everything on the line now with them in this competition, because I think anything from maybe getting to the final would be seen as a failure at this point. What do you think?
This is a really interesting match. Yeah, I mean, and this is a classic. You need to get your homework done because Man United didn't finish obviously top of the group to Real Sociedad, and that's what you get for not finishing top of your group. You obviously have to come back in February and play an opposition from Champions League, and they've drawn the biggest coco in the impossible, but the biggest possible in Barcelona. This is going to be another mouth-watering, fascinating game. Barcelona have got a lot to prove this season. They've got a need to I think to show some silverware. So anything less than winning, or like you say, getting to the final, but certainly trying to win this trophy is even more important, considering that I don't think they'll have enough to win La Liga. Obviously, the Copa del Rey is there, the Spanish Super Cup that happens in Saudi Arabia in January, but there's a lot of pressure on Barcelona to win this trophy to show some acknowledgement for this new Barcelona team that we've seen created for this season. So they're firm favourites, but there's a lot of pressure on them. And with Man United, I think that steady as they go. They've had some wobbly results over the season, but you can see that there's an identity with this Manchester United team overall. And I like the work that Ten Hag's doing, certainly laying down the law to the likes of Ronaldo and saying, hey, I'm the boss here. And I think that Man United have needed that. They've not had that real character that has shown that I am the boss and I will show you. It's my way or the highway. And they needed someone like that. And I think that little by little, if Man United fans give the patience, which is a word that's not associated with football, but if they give him the time, I think that he'll get things right. And although I think that Barcelona will win overall, I think that Man United will show hallmarks of what they're about this season, and they're in for a better season than previous times. But this is going to be a tremendous occasion.
Yeah, you mentioned Ronaldo. He's certainly going to enjoy a trip to the Camp Nou. Let's see if he first survives the winter transfer window. We know how he works with things. But the other Spanish team, obviously your noisy neighbors, Sevilla, getting also I think a tough draw. PSV Eindhoven, they've really impressed me. As an Arsenal fan, I watched their Arsenal game against the Dutch side in the group stage, and they were really tough. Arsenal lost in Netherlands, albeit a game that they could afford to lose. But even in London at the Emirates, they made it very, very difficult, and it was just a goal, I think, from Granit Xhaka that was the difference between the two teams. So even in the Dutch Eredivisie, they're top of the league at the moment. They beat Ajax yesterday in the derby. So, it looks like it's going to be a tough time for Sevilla, who are looking to, save their season also in this tournament.
Yeah, save the season with their trophy that they love and adore so much. This is another that's very, very, very interesting, very evenly matched pairing. PSV, as you said, yesterday won the derby, the Classico against Ajax in Amsterdam as well. Another goal for Luke de Jong. It'd be a return for him as well. He knows the team very, very well. A couple of seasons here with Sevilla, and he's been right in form in the Eredivisie. And they're a very, very good team from what I've seen. They've got some very, very good young players. Xavi Simons, especially coming from Paris Saint-Germain, he's scored a lot of goals for his tender age in the Eredivisie. So I think that PSV will put up a really good fight against Sevilla. It's a difficult one to call. I can't even call this game because obviously the fact of the second leg being in Eindhoven. They've got a good home record. They beat Arsenal in the Europa League, as you rightly said. So this is a team that, showing some good signs, and I think that it'll be a tough task for Sevilla and a lot of pressure on them. Obviously, they're in and around the relegation zone in La Liga at the moment, so their focus is firmly on firstly getting away from that. So it's going to be interesting to see where the teams are in February as well. Obviously, a transfer window, post World Cup. A lot of things, injuries, suspensions, a lot of things can change between now and what we're talking now and the reality in a few months' time. But speaking right now, PSV will fancy their chances. They've done well in the competitions this season in Europe and in domestically, and they'll certainly fancy the chances against a Sevilla team that, yeah, they're clearly not the team of the last few seasons. So they're a wounded animal, let's say, and but they have got that factor like Real Madrid that it is their fabled competition, and as you can see with Real Madrid, how much it raises their game, and with Liverpool as well. So that's why I think that this is a very, very delicately poised match.
Yeah, some of the other ties: Ajax against Union Berlin, Juve against Nantes, Bayer Leverkusen against Monaco, Sporting Lisbon against Midtjylland, Shakhtar against Rennes, and FC Salzburg against Roma. Any other game that stands out for you?
I think the Bayer Leverkusen Monaco game is interesting. Obviously, the recent appointment of Xabi Alonso, first appointment. He obviously knows the Bundesliga with his time at Bayern Munich. I think it's a very astute appointment. I think he's a very knowledgeable guy. When you hear him speak, he's got a lot of experience in so many different leagues, well respected. Got a 5-0 win against Union Berlin recently. And obviously that we're at the wrong end of the table. But I think he's got a month to stamp in his identity between obviously the World Cup happening and the league
even
coming back.
Atletico Madrid to that Europa League spot in the group. So
absolutely, yeah, for sure. So I mean, it shows that he's got the credentials, and I think that he could. Yeah, his team could beat Monaco. I think Monaco are having a good season in Liga. They're about fourth or fifth. They're doing well themselves, but I would pick Bayern to go through. I think that they're a team to watch out for because I like the philosophy of what Xabi Alonso has done with the Real Sociedad B team. And obviously his experience in his playing career and coaching career suggests to me that he's going to be a very, very good and capable manager. So I think that already, I think they're seeing signs of that in Germany. And I think that for that reason, they'll get through this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also Juve should be progressing. I think not following up as well this season as last one. And another game, Ajax against Union, I think will be interesting because we have an Ajax that isn't doing as well this season, but then Union on the other side bettering even what they did last season, kind of fighting for the top spot in the Bundesliga. But listen, David, thank you so much for joining me today. As we said, Betis and of course Real Sociedad, they're already in the next round. They've done their job, so we don't even have to mention them in this playoff knockout round. But thank you so much, and we'll see you soon in Valencia.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you.
Hello, subscribe to Stan Sport for La Liga content.